How's it going, guys? If you're looking for a good Path of Exile build guide, this is not it, though it is a proof of concept. As my solo self-found uniques only coated shrapnel pipe bomb build guide, or EK traps. Use EK traps. Only reason this build exists is because early on leveling, I dropped a coated shrapnel jewel, level 20. I was wondering how I could use it. And I figured if I used EK traps with all these pierce projectile speed nodes, I'd get a bunch of extra flat fizz to traps. So this jewel here gives me like 1.5k average damage, pretty much, like 7% damage off of jewel. We'll look more at the passive tree in a second. So once I got that jewel, I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I make EK traps work? I figured I'd need a sunblast belt and a heartbreaker. I spent 2 days farming Cruel Lab, and all I got was a taste of hate. Taste of hate gives me Fizz's extra cold, which then allows me to shatter stuff. And then I figured, okay, well, I could use the princess sword. That gives me also Fizz's extra cold. So I'm getting a bunch of Fizz's extra cold, so I'm able to shatter stuff with crits. And then I finally gave up on the lab farm. Got Heartbreaker from one of the first maps I did. Got the Sunblast belt from Elrion in research from the trail. I then got these Brynrot Whalers from a unique strongbox. Found out they have global fizz damage and projectile damage with movement speed. Lightning resist is hard to come by with this build. Hence I'm wearing a gold rim still. Using a dream fragments. Give me cannot be chilled or frozen, which is important because using the taste of hate, I really don't have a spot for. I'd have to drop my movement speed on my diamond flask in order to be freeze immune, so the dream fragments is pretty important. Lastly, I was farming for a Ming's Heart. Ming's Heart gives me physical as extra chaos damage. And a bunch of chaos resist. Chaos resist is really important in this league, or metamorphs will destroy you. And I'm using the Embalmer for some life and chaos res. And crew reward gives projectile speed along with projectile damage. And I need the strength and dexterity on this. If I take this off, messes up everything. Projectile speed's important though, because it allows me to pretty much hit everything on the screen with these traps. But pretty much if you hit with this build, you're dead. And I'm not capped resists with my gear unless I have my mana flask up. That's capping my resists here. And I have no physical damage reduction at all. So it's really reliant on Enduring Cry. So coming back to the Restless Ward, it gives 100% increased Endurance, Frenzy, and Power Charge duration. So it makes it a lot easier to keep up the Enduring Cry. And go over the gym links here. I've got EK linked with traps. With quality gives increased trap throwing speed, which is really nice. Trap throwing speed is effective DPS with this build. If without the Sunblast belt, reducing trap duration, if I take this off here, I can't spam down traps anymore with the projectiles or the trap throwing speed that I have. So this belt is kind of mandatory. I have cluster traps here, allow me to throw 3 traps at a time. Charge traps generates power and frenzy charges, and those stay up for the entire map due to the Restless Ward. Trap and mind damage just for the extra damage. Lastly, I have skitterbots in here. If I would have gotten the 6th link on this, I would replace this with probably Controlled Destruction. And probably replace the increased duration in my bear trap setup here. Advanced traps, charge traps, mainly for throwing speed on the bear trap. You don't really need the cooldown, you only use it on metamorphs, bosses, maybe. Increased duration just makes it last a little bit longer. Debuff lasts 5.6 seconds with that. Without, it's only 3.8. Over here in the boots, I've got Whirling Blades, faster attacks, and Fortify. So you Whirling Blades through enemies, like my makeshift enemy pack here. You would Whirling Blades through them to get Fortify. Enduring Cry is important because without endurance charges, like 3 endurance charges, and that's 12% physical damage mitigation, which could be life and death. I only have like 47, roughly, 100. Effective HP on this character, level 94, which is yikes, but it's the best I could do. Up here, I've got Flame Dash, Linked Faster Casting, Arcane Surge, Increased Duration. So I'm using 2 movement skills. So thanks to the Restless Ward, I'm not as stretched to keep up all of my charges. You're basically trying to keep up Arcane Surge and Fortify as you're going through the map. I have Projectile Weakness Spell Totem linked with Faster Casting. I'll use that for metamorphs and bosses. And then lastly, I have a Vol Righteous Fire, Vol Clarity, and Vol Grace, all used for legions and metamorphs. Without Vol Grace, you wouldn't be dodge capped, and Vol Clarity makes your skills cost no mana, so if you get hit and you run out of mana with Mind Over Matter, you can still cast your skills while that's up. Vol Righteous Fire is 28% more spell damage while that is up. So that's pretty much it. We'll look at the passive tree here real quick. I have Born in the Shadows, which nearby enemies are blinded, which helps you not get hit. Pyromaniac gives you life regen for trap triggered. And reduce the mana cost of skills that throw traps, because like you can see that I've stacked a lot of mana on this character. It's still cost a lot only on a 5 link. You get immune to Ignite and Shock with this, so the Barnard Whalers unaffected by Shock Round doesn't really matter that much. Perfect Crime gives you a chance for your traps to trigger an additional time. And then I have Explosive Expert here. And running Skitterbots, I get 10% Ellie Pin with the extra cold that I have, and increased crit chance. I was never able to get the 120% increased critical strike chance if you have not killed recently. When you're using traps, it never counts as you killing things, so you always get that 120% increased crit chance. I ran like 19 Uber Labs and never got the Boots enchant. So I've got trap damage here, life. So it's the tree is basically crit, life, and trap damage. I've got projectile speed from this node here. You need resists where you can work them in. You get phys damage, movement speed here. Dexterity is important. You get trap throwing speed with this, life, crit. This gives you an increased chance to gain power charge when your traps are triggered, and some crit. Power charge stacks with charge traps. You get additional 15% crit multi per power charge. So you're not just getting the 40% crit chance off of the power charge, you're also getting additional 15 multi off of that. Ideally, I would have an intuitive leap here. Grab the frenzy charge as well. Grab the extra mana. These 2 nodes just seemed inefficient. Like if I were to take out 2 nodes, they'd probably be a power charge. And I think the power charge with the extra crit chance is more efficient here. So you get the trap throwing speed. Not having your traps be damaged for 5 seconds after being thrown is really important, so your traps don't just get destroyed. And then you grab the crit stuff back here and get the Ellie pin, which is nice. as I mentioned earlier, this piercing shots. Also here gives you projectile damage and projectile speed. Projectile speed is important with EK. And this coated shrapnel jewel here, acro, phase acro, kind of falls in the do not get hit. This ring of blades jewel allows EK to fire projectiles in a circle. So if I were to take this out, it gives the skill all of its clear speed, pretty much. So this is also pretty mandatory. And then I have life down here. Then I worked my way up over here, like I need the strength and dex from these nodes here. You got Throat Seeker here. I have Wicked Ward, helps the ES recovery rate. You get mana here, you get mana here. Cheap Construction is not necessary to keep spamming traps down, but it's just like effective DPS boost. I have mana here, life, and all res on this. Have the crit here, the life and mana from these, and then I push down to Mind Over Matter. So, if you were to play this build in a software league, Taste the Hate's probably the only thing that costs more than the Chaos. And I'll show you why here. Messing map's probably good. So like I mentioned, if we're using 2 movement skills here, keep Arcane Surge up. You want to get your endurance charges up. And then once you have all that up, you pretty much just go trying not to get hit. Keep Fortify up, Arcane Surge up. You can see the map clear is really good on this build. But when it comes to bosses, it just doesn't work. Which I can handle a T10 Metamorph okay. But yeah, this could be scary. So you can see with all the charges up here, 16 seconds, like you don't have to worry as much about keeping your charges up. Just I press the Enduring Cry every now and then, a couple times a map. Being able to shatter stuff is really important. I also thought about using a Cold Iron Point, which I never got one to drop. That gives me +3 spell gems, but then like I can do no elemental damage, and I wouldn't be able to shatter anything with this, which is pretty important when it comes to staying alive. Porcupines will destroy you. So boss, hit him with the bear trap, which pretty much means he can't move. And now we go for the Metamorph. Drop the projectile weakness totems, spamming this, spam all the flasks, spam all of these, move. And then you just kind of hold on and hope it works. And I have weapon swap portal. Get out. And that's pretty much it. Did you know that with this little helmet thing, if you put your mouse cursor really close and move, the thing spazzes out like crazy. It's really amusing to me.